terminal illness. That's it for now. It's 3 minutes past 7.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA. For great value van insurance, go online to theaa.ie.
Heavy rain will continue to fall with some winds up to gale force in the western coast. Later on, those showers will continue eastwards across the rest of the country. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is News Talk.
Hello there, you're welcome along. It is Tuesday evening, plenty coming your way. Stephen Kenny's been speaking to the media this afternoon. Jack Byrne is part of his 25-man squad for the Slovakia playoff game next Thursday. Can't believe it's finally here. We've been talking about this for a long time. Dan McDonald with all the details at 7:30. We'll play you some of what Stephen Kenny was saying as well. Louise Galvin has retired from Sevens rugby after 5 years. We'll chat to her about the various strands to her career, GAA, rugby, basketball, and currently working with COVID patients. Ryan Farmer-Jones, always a brilliant guest. He is with us ahead of the NBA finale, Lakers versus Miami Heat from tomorrow. And then on the football show, Tim Vickery, as Brazil in particular, but South America, grapples with football and COVID. 53106 is the text number. We're at Off the Ball. Richie McCormack, hello to you.
Young Joe, how are you?
Very well. Will O'Callaghan, hello.
Evening, lads. How are you getting on?
What's going on in your world, Will? Start us off there. What are we talking about? What's going on?
Yeah, I guess everyone's probably talking still about what happened on the TV last night, which we kind of didn't expect. Liverpool get a routine enough 3-1 victory against Arsenal, and it seems everyone is continuing to talk about the exchange between Jurgen Klopp and Roy Keane that happened afterwards, despite Klopp now twice trying to play it down since. I think people appear to have been pretty entertained by the comedic timing of Roy Keane afterwards. We saw it at a roadshow almost 12 months ago now at this point with yourselves. And, you know, he is a pretty funny guy, and he was able to basically shoulder everything the Klopp said after the game, and then was able to just go, he's a bit touchy, isn't he? Imagine what he would have said if they'd lost. And, you know, I think Klopp has probably enamored himself, as if he had to do so, even more with Liverpool supporters, given the fact that he went out there and defended his team directly afterwards. And this is twice now in pretty quick succession that Sky Sports have had a microphone left on, or at least a feed back to Jurgen Klopp's headset, that he was able to hear what was going on at the Sky Sports studio. And again, I think he was clever in picking up Roy Keane about the sloppiness, and it created an exchange we usually don't see, which is a manager hearing perhaps not what was directly being said about his team when everyone is being particularly nice to them when a game finishes. And he got to hear just a little snippet, and that was enough to create a bit of drama. It was kind of an unusual piece of TV.
No, it certainly was. Let's have a listen then. I was JP, as I was walking in, he said, we've got the Roy Keane clip if you want it. And I said, no, we don't want to talk about that again, do we? And here we are, Will, courtesy of you, here we are. So let's have it then if you didn't see this last night or somehow avoided it on social media for the last 24 hours.
They scored 3 goals again tonight. You know, 3 goals at home. It's never easy to score goals. The last home game, as much as they were sloppy against Leeds, scored 4. They just got loads of goals in them. But they were sloppy 1 or 2 occasions at the back. But job done, and good start to the season from.
Did I hear it right? Mr. Keane said we had a sloppy performance tonight? No, only because I could hear you already. Did he say that?
Well, I think he said there were some aspects that were. Roy, would you like to say?
No, I think they gave up 1 or 2 opportunities, which they'll be disappointed
Did he say
with.
that? This was a sloppy performance tonight. I want to only hear it, because I'm not sure if I heard it right. Maybe he spoke about another game. Cannot be this game. Sorry. That's an incredible description of this game. This was absolutely exceptional. Nothing was sloppy. Absolutely nothing. It was from the first second dominant against a team in form, 100% in form. And you have to be careful like hell that not eat the counter-attacks. Like, I think 60-70% of all the balls in behind were offside. You just wait a little longer for the flag meanwhile. So that's why it feels not great, but it was offside. So then Ali had to make 1 save. They had 2 balls in behind. You cannot avoid that. You need a goal in these situations. Apart from that, the football we played was absolutely exceptional tonight. So that doesn't help for any other game, not for Thursday, not for Sunday, for nothing. But about this game tonight, there's nothing bad to say.
Sensitive, these managers, aren't they?
Very sensitive, isn't it? Jesus, imagine if he'd lost.
Roy, would you expect Liverpool to defend their title?
Yeah. Well, I have to say that now after Klopp had a go me. I'm afraid to say anything.
Let's
spoiled my night.
Let's hope he hears that.
It's pretty good. I mean, it was quite the riposte from Klopp. It's very hard to argue with. You know, there's so many times you have to wait for the offside flag, so things look more perilous than they are. And then, you know, you need a goalkeeper sometimes. You need, especially with a high line. Alisson's going to be called upon, but that's not sloppiness. That's just us going about our business in the modern era, the way the game is. And it struck me, you know, that Roy Keane would have just hated everything about that. So he's there, you know, he's there for Sky. He can't go to town on Jurgen Klopp. And also Klopp makes such a good argument, you can't really disagree with much of it. And, you know, everything he's ever said about not wanting to be a pundit. And here he is, you know, one of the great managers now in the game, defending their title, really good win last night, and he's on the TV criticising it. And then Klopp calls him out over it. I'd say driving home, he just thought, ugh. I wouldn't be surprised if he quit punditry after this. You know, that way, I'd say he just hated...
I wish he would.
I'd just say he hated everything about that scenario.
I wish he would. Then we'd lose this living nightmare that we find ourselves in, where every word uttered by Roy Keane, for some reason, is analysed to within an inch of its life, despite the fact it doesn't deserve it. What he had in footballing ability, he traded for Eamon Dunphy's verbosity, and he comes across as less witty than Dunphy, a watered-down version of Dunphy, and we're stuck with him now, because every time he says something, it gets written up in 4 different articles. It gets retweeted by 1 million different people, and there's nothing of substance to it. Basically, Klopp misheard a valid point that Keane made last night, and then we go on as if it's an argument or someone called somebody out, and it's just not true. And we're as guilty of it as anybody else, to be fair. But the nonsense that Roy Keane's opinion somehow needs to be heard louder than anybody else's is rubbish.
Well, he's just entertaining. That's the point, you know. It's the reason people click in.
He's not, though.
Well, he's not dull. I mean, he's not dull.
He's not dull.
He's brilliant on television.
He's not dull, but he's not Kenny Everett.
Not saying he's a brilliant analyst, but he is brilliant on television. You know.
And like that's what Sky are going for, guys. I mean, we saw this with the Tottenham-Manchester United game after the pandemic, the restart, where he says David De Gea should have to walk back to Manchester, and I wouldn't let Harry Maguire onto the bus either, and I probably would have hit De Gea after conceding that goal to Bergwijn. You've got the moment with Micah Richards after Aston Villa stay up. They're going for entertainment rather than analysis. And the thing is, do you really want to sit down and listen to a game being broken down tactically for an hour afterwards, or do you want kind of entertaining moments like we had between Klopp and Keane last night?
Human nature dictates these things, Richie, and the algorithms don't lie. People are interested, they click in, and therefore we get more and more Roy Keane stories. I mean, it's been that way for 20 years.
The very fact that we live our life by algorithms is wrong anyway. Human nature has proved itself to be inherently wrong for centuries.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but we are stuck with human nature.
We can do away with it as soon as possible because it's absolutely worthless.
Jimmy says, and I know you were alluding to this, Richie, Klopp didn't hear all of Keane's comments. He was quite effusive in his praise, but just pointed out the defensive sloppiness. I'm a Liverpool fan, by the way. I had thought that initially as well, but even listening to it there, you know, Klopp, when he's addressing what Keane said, he obviously heard enough to know Keane was talking about the defensive issues and sloppiness there, because he solely talked and defended his team's defending. You know, he didn't talk about how good we were going forward, so he knew Keane was talking about their defensive issues. So I know there was a bit of confusion and the feed is kind of tricky, but I think he had a fair sense that Keane was talking about giving up chances, and then he defended his team. And on we go, Will. I mean, for Sky and their producers, it's just high fives all round, feet up on the table. When are we booking Roy again? That's, you know, and we need to make damn sure that the managers hear what he's saying right before they come on.
Yeah, and it's the possibility you put people together who are going to conflict, like we saw with Micah Richards and Roy Keane, like we've seen from time to time between Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville. That drama, even if it does feel a little bit forced at times, there's going to be a certain genuine feel to the back of it and the rivalry there, and it's going to create good television for them. And that is really all that they care about. And we've kind of seen this with Sky. They've tried to regenerate things a bit with Soccer Saturday getting a huge facelift over the last while too. And it seems, again, while they probably will take a while to recreate the dynamic they had with guys who were there for 15 years as part of a single group, definitely from watching the first couple of Soccer Saturdays the last few weeks, they're trying to create that feeling that you're down the pub chatting to your mates, as opposed to getting serious football analysis. They're obviously looking at the viewers, they're looking at how many hits they're getting online, and it seems to be working for them so far.
It does, Richie, can I put it to you this way, right? So there's a couple of texts in, because I agree with you in so many ways. You know, your core point is how every word that he says is just blown up by the internet times a billion, and it's grating. So, for instance, Jack and Santry, well said, Richie. Bloody Sky Sports News today were saying, get the popcorn out with a graphic of Keane and Klopp. OTT nonsense. And ultimately, if you were sitting at home last night watching the TV, watching the game, and you saw that exchange with Keane and Klopp, and I wouldn't be in the same kind of park, you'd be within your rights to say, that's kind of good TV. You know, it was a little bit of something. You know, little Klopp and Keane, and they had their moment, and, you know, Keane made a joke afterwards, and that was kind of grand. Now I'm going to turn off and have a hot cup of milk before I go to bed. The problem is, the internet just blows everything up into the biggest thing ever. And actually, if you can separate what actually happened with the predictable reaction from Twitter and the world afterwards, you know, on TV, that was pretty cool. That was good. Your distaste is for internet explosion afterwards for the next 24 hours. And Will bringing it up on Off the Ball the next night. Will.
My distaste is several-fold.
Okay.
I grew up a football fan who was used to like 3-minute introductions to matches on ITV and then maybe a couple of minutes at the end if they had time, and that'd be it. And that's all it needs. Sky ruined that in 1992 when they decided that they needed a 3-hour build-up to Nottingham Forest against Coventry.
I just point out we do a 3-hour radio show every night with no live sport.
We have different topics. It's fine. And on top of that,
an hour-long football show.
With different topics, it's fine. Not just the one topic, right? We'll move on from that. But like the fact that, you know, we need Roy Keane being misheard on a bleeding feed, and I don't mean that in a cursing sense, I mean that in the sense that Klopp overheard it. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that we need Roy Keane being misheard rather than insightful and incisive questions from the people who are actually employed to interview Klopp means that we got moments like last night. So like we're missing out on all fronts. And then you get into the algorithms whereby the more people that watch means the more times you have to see this nonsense over and over and over again.
Yeah, I agree with you to a point. I definitely, when I heard Keane and Klopp had an exchange, I absolutely wanted to see it, 100%. You know, I did like you can be a bit too po-faced and say, oh, you want the journalist employed to ask the questions, to ask those questions. You don't need this nonsense with Roy Keane and Klopp. It was brilliant, and the thing is, it wasn't a setup. Like, it was natural, and you've got a legendary figure and a legendary figure having this disagreement. Like, for me, that's amazing. That's great. It's all the other stuff I can leave behind.
The only real disappointment, Joe, on it too, was that Jamie Carragher jumped in and started asking the questions not that long afterwards. And you could feel a certain nervousness from Carragher, almost like they wanted to keep Klopp on side for the next 4 minutes, as opposed to something awkward happening. I think it would have been very interesting from a dramatic point of view if the producer had been in the ear with Dave Jones and said, let Roy and Klopp talk to each other for a little while. Because, you know, Keane's defence was perfectly understandable too when he said, look, I said loads of good things about Liverpool and you've just picked up on one word that you've half heard. I would have been quite interested if the two of them could have had a bit more of a back and forth.
Well, listen, if somebody in Sky is doing their job, then they will already have scheduled in Roy Keane goes to Melwood to interview Jurgen Klopp. And we will all watch that, and Richie can pretend he won't. That's where we are.
I don't have Sky, Joe, so I don't have to watch it.
It'll be online. You better believe it.
And God knows I'll avoid it there too.
Pat says, is Richie aware that he can change the channel and avoid the pre-match and post-match analysis? I mean...
Again, don't have Sky, don't bother with it.
It's a point. I was watching Charlie Bird on last night saying we shouldn't get the death figures anymore because it's all he's hearing on the news, basically. And someone said to him, just don't watch the news. Other people might want that information. Richie, some of us want the talk, you know, there's nothing wrong with the talk.
Yeah, people wanted the Nazis, Joe. And by Coldplay.
People like Coldplay.
Come on.
Yeah.
What planet are you on? I love Roy's appointed. Sharp, insightful, honest, funny, critically. He's also different, which is why he is so enthralling.
And that's the problem. It just shows that nobody in punditry in England has an opinion. And the fact that somebody even gives a boring one like Keane, it becomes news.
I don't think that's true. Neville's full of opinions. Carragher is full of opinions. Ian Wright will give an opinion. I think it's improved massively post the Andy Gray era. Massively. Like Neville, in fairness, Neville's about as good a pundit as there's ever been on UK television, if not the best.
But can you listen to his voice at length?
But that's nonsense, Richie. Come on.
No, it's not. He's employed in the media. He's employed. You wouldn't have this job if you had a thick Cavan accent.
I can listen to his voice, yeah.
You wouldn't have this job if you had a thick Cavan accent. That's the difference.
Poor Dave McIntyre.
Well, I mean, I might if I'd won.
He has the news round now.
If I'd won...
That's not you.
7 Premier Leagues, a Champions League, and a bunch of England internationals, I might have snuck on, you know? and had very interesting things to say, which I don't.
That's
all
called the
I've
Sean
got
Kelly
to offer
paradox.
here are dulcet tones. I don't have any
called the Sean Kelly paradox.
interesting to say. Jeez, you're in foul humour here. We're here at 18 minutes past 7, and we're, you know...
Because we wasted 13 minutes on this guff.
It was Will's fault.
Pointless.
It was Will's fault. I simply said, Will, what's going on?
Will's preamble took 5 minutes alone.
Jeez.
And what a preamble it was.
Right. Okay.
Punctuation, Will.
Let's park Roy Keane for the rest of the show. How about that?
Thank God.
Okay. The news round is with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette made of what matters. I am curious out there, if people want to text in 53106, give me your general sense of things. Are more people in the Richie camp than I suspect?
Then you'll have to read their texts. You've just broken your promise if you do that.
I'll do that right at the end before the ad break. Or do you know what? Dan McDonald's on after 7:30 with all the Stephen Kenny news. I might just read a bunch of texts there, put them to Dan, and he can have the final word on the Roy situation. So, Richie, you are starting with Stephen Kenny.
Yeah, Shamrock Rovers midfielder Jack Byrne has been called up by Stephen Kenny for the first time. He's named in the 25-man squad for next week's Euro playoff semi-final with Slovakia and the following Nations League games with Wales and Finland. Also included are Robbie Brady and Callum O'Dowda. That's despite both carrying injuries. But there's no room for Dara O'Shea, Michael Obafemi or Jimmy Dunn. And Kenny has been explaining Byrne's inclusion.
Yeah, I think I've been consistent in my selection. I think, I think we've increased the squad from 23 to 25. We've 3 games this time. I think Jack has played quite well. Did well against AC Milan in the Europa League game. It must be said. Thought he did a good game against AC Milan, and obviously followed that up with 2 goals the weekend. So, he's in the squad on merit. And he deserves to be in the squad.
Yeah, we'll talk to Dan about that in about 15 minutes' time or so. Thiago, then, news just in, really.
Yeah, Liverpool confirming that Thiago Alcantara has tested positive for COVID-19. The midfielder was absent from last night's 3-1 win over Arsenal for unspecified reasons. The club said this evening that Thiago is showing minor symptoms but is in good spirits and getting better. Under UK government guidelines, he must isolate for a period of 10 days. During last night's game, the Premier League revealed that 10 individuals from the latest round of screening had tested positive, its highest number to date. 3 of those we already knew were at West Ham, with David Moyes, Josh Cullen and Issa Diop all testing positive. Thiago has now joined that number and making it 4 out of the 10 that we know.
Richie versus Molloy has sparked more fireworks than Klopp versus Keane, says Brian. It's true. I mean, you're more pent up about this than Klopp was.
Yeah, it's a lot of pent up frustration at Roy Keane nonsense.
So, football tonight then.
Yeah, Sligo Rovers can leapfrog Dundalk into 4th in the SSE Electricity Premier Division table. Liam Buckley's side welcome Northwest rivals Derry City to the showgrounds, where there's a 7:45 start. Meanwhile, Tottenham play their 7th and final game of a hectic September, but it doesn't end there for them, of course, tonight. Jose Mourinho welcomes his former employers Chelsea in the 4th round of the Carabao Cup. It's a stronger Tottenham 11 than we might have believed from Mourinho on Sunday evening. Hugo Lloris starts in goal. A back 3 then of Toby Alderweireld, Eric Dyer and Jaffa Tanganga. Serge Aurier and new signing Sergio Reguilon provide the width. In midfield, it's Jedson Fernandez, Moussa Sissoko and Tanguy Ndombele, with Stephen Bergwijn in support of the false 9 of Eric Lamela. A debut for Edouard Mendy in the Chelsea goal. A back 4 then of Cesar Azpilicueta, Kurt Zouma, Fikayo Tomori and fellow debutant Ben Chilwell. Jorginho, Mateo Kovacic and Mason Mount in midfield, with Callum Hudson-Odoi and Timo Werner either side of handsome Olivier Giroud, and kickoff is at 7:45.
Yeah, Jose Mourinho has lamented the fact, Will, that he would love to fight for the Carabao Cup, but he can't.
Yeah, and then he goes out and puts out a team that possibly will take Chelsea out of the Carabao Cup this evening. The one surprise for me when I saw the team news is that Chelsea didn't start Kepa in goal. I actually thought they would use Kepa here and then use Edouard Mendy, I should say, this coming week. But maybe he just wants to get time into him, and maybe he doesn't intend to play him at the weekend, and this is a chance to play before the international break, because the minute that Willy Caballero played at the weekend against West Brom, you get the feeling that Kepa is now fighting as the number 2 to try and get back into number 1, as opposed to being number 1 and trying to fend these 2 guys off. So kind of a little bit surprised that Mendy starts. The good news, I guess, from an Irish perspective, is that Gareth Bale is not even match fit to be part of a squad for Tottenham currently. I thought if he was anywhere near fitness, they would have had him involved this evening. So how much game time he's going to get in the Nations League in a few weeks' time, I'm not sure. But that Tottenham team could easily knock Chelsea out, although I would imagine that Frank Lampard is more serious about trying to win this competition than Jose Mourinho actually is.
Rich, we might skip ahead to Will Addison.
Yeah, terrible news for the versatile Ireland back this evening and this afternoon. He's been ruled out for what Ulster are calling several months after undergoing further back surgery. The versatile Ulster back initially sustained the problem in January of last year. He went on to miss the World Cup indirectly because of it, going under the knife 3 months later. His province, Addison, has suffered a setback in his rehabilitation, which required another operation. Tom O'Toole will miss several weeks after sustaining an ankle injury in the Pro 14 final. Meanwhile, Ulster say 600 supporters will be allowed to attend their Guinness Pro 14 season opener against Benetton this Friday. The decision to allow a limited attendance at Kingspan Stadium was reached following talks with Belfast City Council and the IRFU. It'll form part of a trial for the increased return of fans at sporting events in Northern Ireland alone.
If my... Oh, no, I don't know if I can read that.
Go on. Go on.
Oh, God. You have to read it now.
If my 13-year-old whinged and whined as much as that guy Richie, I'd ground him. Richie doesn't have Sky. It reminds me of, how can a modern-day manager not have a mobile phone? Why should he? Sports reporter, Adrian in Limerick.
Yeah, 30 quid a month is better spent elsewhere in this house, to be fair.
Lads, I don't get Keane as a pundit. He's no insight into the tactics of the game, just repeats himself constantly about effort and fight. Then he'll say something reasonably controversial. The Brits love it. Neville and Carragher can dissect a game well. So can Shearer. Keane hasn't a clue, which is obviously why no one wants him as a manager. Also a bit of a fake, swearing he'd never lower himself to be a pundit. Well, he's not even good enough for that. He's a party trick that's getting very old, and I'm a Manchester United fan, says John in Terranure. Oof. Oof. Richie McCormack secretly typing under the desk there with that.
But even the fact that it has to be couched in, I'm a Manchester United fan, or I'm a Liverpool fan, and I agree with X, or I agree with Y, like, even that is odd.
It's crazy tribalism. Absolute insanity that you have to have this idea that I can say this, but I say this from my position as a Manchester United fan, where I should just support Keane unconditionally.
Speaking as a biped, I find that this one-legged man is not actually that nice. It's just weird.
Or Nash on Twitter, hey. What the hell was that attack?
Hey, Mr. Belding.
On Cavan.
On Cavan.
That's probably the only thing I might retract.
Retract immediately.
That's the only thing I'll retract.
He said, we sound shocking interesting.
Shocking.
I like that tweet was written phonetically as well.
I know, good man. Or Nash, tweet of the night thus far. Are the twins on Irish Gogglebox, Cavan? Just me who watches Gogglebox?
I think you're on your own here.
I'm getting a thumbs up outside. They are. They're brilliant. Do you know Irish Gogglebox? English Gogglebox? Anyone? Just me? Grand, okay. I think it's good. I think it's very good. I'm sounding a bit pathetic. Yeah, it's very good. It's really good. Right, let's get a move on. We've got to get to Dan McDonald. So Pro 16 is happening. This is official. We don't have to talk and conjecture or rumour anymore.
The only thing we don't really know essentially is the time frame for this. South Africa Rugby have confirmed that their Super Rugby quartet are poised to join what is now the Pro 14. They say Cheetahs confirmed today they would not be part of a new Pro 16, while the Southern Kings have already folded. The Pro 14 itself starts as a 12-team tournament on Friday, but the Cheetahs and another South African side are penciled in to rejoin in the new year. The Bulls, Stormers, Sharks and Lions, oh my, were the sides that were chosen to join instead. Along with the Southern Kings, the Cheetahs joined then Pro 12 in 2017.
Okay, we'll be talking about that tomorrow evening on Wednesday Night Rugby, I suspect. French Open, meanwhile?
Yeah, Novak Djokovic in rare form today, needing just 98 minutes to seal a place in the second round. The men's top seed beat Sweden's Mikael Ymer 6-love, 6-2, 6-3. Women's fourth seed Sofia Kenin needed 3 sets to beat the world number 125, Lyudmila Samsonova. Second seed Karolina Pliskova was also taken the distance by the Egyptian qualifier Mayar Sharif. The Czech says her vast experience got her over the line in the end today.
I don't know. I think I relaxed a little bit in the second set, and of course she was just playing an ugly game, so there was not much room or not many points where I would like really feel great, but I was just able to find a little bit better level than in the first set, but like never giving up. I mean, that's the only thing which I can do no matter how it goes, because there is always a chance, especially against these players. I think for them it's really tough to close the match. Maybe they can play great 2 sets, but I mean 3 sets is quite tough.
Just to break my own rule for a second, Mark and Wicklow makes a point we haven't made, and it's kind of probably a fair one in this instance. He says, in fairness, Roy didn't actually do anything wrong, I don't believe. He didn't last night. You know, that was just a kind of unfortunate incident, the way it all transpired. So, last couple of stories. Oh, yeah, Scott Parker not thrilled with his owner.
Yeah, Fulham manager says he's disappointed with the club's owner, that he apologised for his side's performance after their defeat to Aston Villa last night. Tony Khan posted on Twitter at full time to say sorry after the 3-0 defeat, which Conor Heron scored and assisted another. Khan also promised to bring in reinforcements before the transfer window closes on Monday. But Parker says Khan's comments in general are not very helpful.
I think I said it last night. People have the platform, the football club. You can decide how you want to communicate or send a message out. It's not something I agree with. It's not helpful from that sense. But like I said, that's down to the owner and how he sees it. And there's one thing I'm disappointed with is actually apologising for the performance, and that is something what I don't agree.
Where is he speaking from?
It was a gammy Skype reception. The banks of the Thames are not the best served by broadband, it would seem, especially in West London.
Right. It's not ideal. That's not a great start of the season. They are 0 for 3, Will. They're -7 goal difference. They're not looking very good. And already manager publicly saying he's disappointed that the owner has gone above him. Well, I guess he's entitled to go above him, but gone out and apologised to the fans for what Scott Parker and his team have shown so far.
Yeah, I guess two sides to that. I mean, 6 minutes into their first game back against Arsenal, it was very clear that Fulham were going to have defensive problems that probably everyone expected when they came back up. The fear would be that they'd be a soft touch and that they would concede a lot of goals. We saw that again against Aston Villa last night. So understandably, there's pressure on from that point of view. They look like, even at this early stage, that they're almost dead certs to go straight back down to the Championship. And then the Khan family, I think, like to use the publicity a bit here. The Khans own a wrestling company. They own multiple sporting franchises. I'm not sure exactly how they're able to spread themselves so thinly to be able to concentrate on all of them. But what they tend to do is, I will take to social media, I'll go directly over the club and over my manager, I will apologise directly, and the fans will like me and think it's the team and the manager doing things wrong. It's just kind of classic Khans to do this, and you can understand where Scotty Parker's coming from. Yeah. And I'm sure his feeling would be, why are you backing me in the transfer market on the last week where we have to scramble around like supermarket sweep, as opposed to having a transfer plan that made sense over the last month or so?
Yeah, that is our news round done for this evening. Richie, all the best.
God bless you all.
Will O'Callaghan, thank you.
See you, lads.
I should remind you, we're recording this on Friday, but it will be available across social media over the weekend, I'm presuming, and then on Monday as well, we will play it out. It's an in-depth chat with Gary Neville and Teddy Sheringham as part of our Cadbury series of shows. If you want to put a question to the lads, Richie McCormack included, send the question, your name and question, to 53106 for 30 cents, and you could be in with a chance of winning a Cadbury hamper, and you can check out cadburyfc.com for updates and promotions and giveaways. So I think we're recording Friday morning. Certainly it'll be available on our social channels, and then we'll play a good chunk of it out here on the radio on Monday the 5th. Dan McDonnell on the way next.
Plant your love and let